Yo, what's good, everyone? Your boy Deke here with that fantasy guy, a.k.a. Nick,
_412 on Instagram.
but just at that fantasy guy
on TikTok. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, obviously, we made a vid last week. We're just doing some fantasy talk. We're keeping it coming with that content, getting you prepped for the season, getting ourselves prepped for the season. We did quarterbacks last week, and this week we're going to be talking some running backs. We're going to go 1 through 20. This is going to be PPR based. And we'll give you some honorable mentions probably too. And we're doing 1 through 20 as opposed to 1 through 15 with the quarterbacks, just because running backs are more important. You got to have two in your starting lineup and then
flex,
and a flex potentially. You could pick between running back, receiver, tight end. So yeah, that's what we'll do. Have some honorable mentions after the 20 and then some sleepers as well. Maybe some snubs as to, why these people didn't make our top 20.
For sure.
Now, you want to just get into one here. I think it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, it's the easy thing. It's Christian McCaffery. I mean, you're talking about a guy that led the league in fantasy points last year, finished first in total touchdowns, third in rushing attempts. This is a guy that had over 1,000 yards receiving as a running back. He led the league in scrimmage yards with 2,392. The closest player to him was Ezekiel Elliot. He had 1,700. So, I mean, this is a dude that he's on the field for 94% of their snaps. He's just a no-brainer. He's a bona fide number one, not only for RBs, but just in fantasy overall. And, it's hard to think of something negative about him.
No, 100%. The receiving, just everything that he can do.
Yeah.
And he might be in a class of his own. And we're going to talk about this with the second running back. I think the second running back, what the hell? I'll just say it right now. I have Barkley as my second running back, but he might be able to close that gap a little bit. We'll get into that later, but he might be in an interior of his own. I mean, you look last year, he had 471 total fantasy points. The second guy was Aaron Jones at 314. That's less than a 160-point difference right there. Dude, that is absurd. Like, if you're thinking, all right, who's a mid-tier guy? Let's say Mark Ingram with 242 fantasy points. You minus that by 160. What does that gap look like to you? It's some bottom tier running back that's not getting much playing time at all. So that's how big of a difference McCaffery made last year. Yeah. So that's why we say tier of his own. But now when you think of, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about McCaffery. No, I mean he's just the bona fide number one pick. It's just as simple as that. I don't think that this has been a while. I think there's been Calvin Johnson in the past. Sometimes I don't know. There's always been a debate there, though. I think there was a year with Peterson where there was no doubt you were taking him number one.
But still, I mean, with McCaffery, it's like, you can't even think of anything negative about the guy.
I don't remember another time where this is like the surefire pick. Like even last year, like you were picking Barkley one, but there was still some
people
debate
were picking Barkley
in terms of the top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Elliot would have been up there if not for the holdout. Yeah. I remember all that. Yes. I mean, Kamara was in the mix too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even McCaffery was in the mix for the top pick last year. But this year, it's just simply McCaffery. You're taking him. It's just a no-brainer pick. And we've mentioned before that maybe with the new coach coming in, could it stir the pot? But no, if anything, it works to his favor. A college system.
Absolutely.
Teddy Bridgewater doesn't throw the ball down the field that much.
Absolutely.
He's going to be checking down to McCaffery, getting the ball out quick. So I could see a repeat of last season to some extent. I don't know, 470. Yeah. That's a lot. I could see lower 400s, maybe 410, 420, but 470 is a lot. And, so that's what I'm seeing with McCaffery.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that, he's going to be the number one at the draft. I think he's going to be the number one at the end of the year. I think that he's a dude that, he's a proven guy that's just going to go out there and win you week by week. I think he's a dude that can win you week by week, but not only do that, can win you your fantasy championship. He puts up solid numbers the whole year through. If you're lucky enough to get him, you're getting the best.
No, 100%. And saying the week by week he's going to win it for you, it goes back to someone saying, dude, you got McCaffery. Or I got McCaffery this week. There's a phrase for that. Yeah, literally. It's just absurd. He could literally win you week by week. And when you're on the losing side of that, it's really frustrating. Oh, my God. When you're on the winning side, you're just smiling cheek to cheek.
I lost in the first round of the fantasy championship last year.
I remember you telling me.
Listen to this.
He must have had an awful lineup all around outside of these two players.
I lost to a guy that had Lamar Jackson and Christian McCaffery on the same team, and I only lost by 10 points.
So his other team must have been trash because you said you had a high seed, right?
Yeah, dude.
You had a really good regular season.
I finished, what was it, like 10-2-1, I think? I mean, can't do much better. I mean, in fantasy, when anything can happen, but
so those two players literally won
him the whole thing. I mean, these other players weren't even that good, like average receivers, you know what I mean, average flex, but just when you get put up 40 and 50 in the postseason, it's not fun.
McCaffrey could do that. Yes. Now on to our number 2 guy, and this guy's going to be really interesting to me in terms of.
I'm excited.
Like I said, McCaffrey may be in his own tier. At the same time, this guy
can't rule him out.
He might be in that tier by the end of the season. Because if you look, I mentioned earlier, it's Saquon Barkley. You look at his rookie season, 385 points in PPR. If I say McCaffrey goes from 470 to 410, 420, dude, is it outside of the possibility that Barkley gets over 400 as well? Or even if you get 385 or 390, I'd say you're still on that tier with McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. Like, these two are just above and beyond some of the other players.
I know this is only his 3rd year, but think about this. You know, he missed 3 games last year. So, you know, he didn't play a full season. But still, you know, 3 games ain't that much. Mm-hmm. For his career, he's averaging over 119 scrimmage yards per game. I mean, for a guy that's only, you know, 2 years in the league, that's pretty impressive. He had 20 or more fantasy points in 60% of his games played. You know, they improved that O-line. They have better weapons now. Daniel Jones is going on his 2nd year. He's a better quarterback that, you know, he's going to be more of a threat with, as I said, the weapons that they have with Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, healthy. I mean, they have a scary team here. I mean, not a scary team, but like a scary potent offense.
Enough for this year coming into
for
this
Barkley
year
to really eat on it.
I think that was a little bit of a concern last year with Barkley because I thought we just didn't know anything about the Giants because Eli Manning was starting out the year. They lost Odell Beckham. You were like, could this be a scenario with David Johnson the year prior with the Cardinals where this team is so bad that even if he gets a lot of touches, they're going to be down early and the rushes aren't going to be there and the quality rushes aren't going to be there. But he proved that wrong. But now, fast forward a year, I think the offense is even a little bit better. And I think it's a little bit more of a certainty that, all right, these guys will at least be good enough to be putting up fantasy points for sure.
Defenses aren't going to be able to stack the box the way they did last year with Evan Ingram, Darius Slayton, and Sterling Shepard on the outside. And also think about this. Their new offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett, when he was in Dallas, Zeke won 2 rushing titles under him. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm not saying that Zeke's not as good as Barkley. I'm not saying Barkley's not as good as Zeke, but, you know, that's something to keep on tabs. I mean, this is a guy that he averages 4.8 yards a carry. You want to get him the ball by any means, whether in the passing game or the receiving game.
91 receptions his rookie year. That's absurd. That is absurd.
It's outrageous.
Like, I feel like his rookie year, I'm trying to think back. I mean, it kind of flew under the radar a little bit. Yeah. Just because the Giants haven't been that good. But, dude, he's been 385 that rookie year. Like, that's impressive. And that's why I have him over Zeke. Zeke is my 3 just because and it goes back to what you're saying. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I just think Barkley's better for a fantasy standpoint. Mm-hmm. Those extra receptions are a big deal for the PPR. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at Zeke Elliott, you know, his past, he's played in the NFL 4 years. So 325 was his PPR total his rookie year. He had 203 his second year, but he was suspended for a little bit, but still put up a 20.3 points per game average there, 329 and 311. So he hasn't hit that echelon over 350, 360, or even just 380 like Barkley has. So I like that upside that Barkley brings over Elliott, but Elliott is 3 just because it's Zeke Elliott. I mean, come on. With any of these 3 backs, they're an elite talent. They're amazing running backs, and they're not splitting carries with anyone. There could be an argument that Pollard might be getting some time here, but I'm not worried about that at all, dude. I'm just really not.
I think that I had Dalvin Cook at 3.
Really?
I mean, you know, even with his injury history, I think that, you know, with the
that's what I'm concerned about.
With the fact that the Vikings got rid of Stephon Diggs, I think he's just going to evolve more into the offense. And even when you watched him last year, I mean, I was very pressed to find a running back that hit the hole with as much
he looked
much
awesome.
Aggression and as fast as he did. And
Awesome in that playoff game. Versus
very explosive, very explosive when he's healthy. And he had last year 250 rushing attempts in 14 games and finished 6th among PPR scoring running backs. It's just, with any guy in the top 5, it's a RB1. A for sure RB1. These guys are proven that they can get it done. It's just about, as you said, what risk you want to take with injury history, how the offenses have evolved over the years to build a system around these guys. I think that I had Zeke I had him at 5.
Whoa.
Now listen. Here's the reason behind it. So they have a new head coach this year, Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy in his 13-year seasons as head coach with the Packers, his offense is only ranked in the top 15 in fantasy running backs only 4 times. Only 4 times.
What were those 15 though? Were they in the top 5 maybe?
No, they were
top 10.
I don't have the stats for it, but
in terms of fantasy, like Lacey had some good fantasy years where he finished like as a top 5 guy.
Yeah,
a couple years.
I didn't mean fantasy. I'm saying rushing attempts. Just rushing attempts. Yep. They only finished in the top 15 in rushing attempts only 4 times in 13 seasons.
Okay.
He never had an offense ranked inside the top 10 in rushing attempts ever.
So those have all been between 10 and 15. They haven't even been in the top 10.
Never. They had that new offensive coordinator last year, Kellen Moore. He's a guy that likes to push the ball down the field. That's why Dak's, deep throw percentage last year was so high. He was such a good deep ball thrower. And now you look at their team with the addition of CeeDee Lamb, with Amari Cooper. I just think that we're going to see another year of, just Dak stretching the ball deep, getting used to that.
That's why you were high on Dak for the quarterback, so that makes sense.
And I'm still high on Zeke. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad year, but I just feel that with the new coach, with the way things are run there, I saw a lot of how Mike McCarthy ran the system in Green Bay with Aaron Jones, but right before he left, actually, Aaron Jones was a guy that was the clear, easily most explosive guy on that roster, and he still would tie like 3 backs in. He had like Ty Montgomery, Jamal Williams. He's running all these different guys, while Aaron Jones is the guy that's averaging like over 5 yards a carry, pounding touchdowns out. Look what he did last year without Mike McCarthy. They led the league in touchdowns. The guy just wouldn't give him a chance, and I'm just afraid that, as you mentioned, Tony Pollard there, I just think that they're going to want to, keep Zeke healthy. They know that they can win games with the arm, and then rely on Zeke in the playoffs and beat teams down. I just think that we're not gonna see the type of number 1 year from Zeke. I know it's possible, it's very possible. I just don't see it.
Yeah, the thing I like about Zeke the most is I don't think there's any risk in taking Zeke. I think his floor is pretty much top 5.
Yeah,
top 5 or 6, which is why I'm taking him at 3. I guess the counterpoint could be that McCarthy never had a Zeke up there. I know you brought up Aaron Jones. I think Zeke's head and shoulders above Aaron Jones, where it's like, here's the thing. I could see a scenario where McCarthy's trying to
preserve him.
I guess you could put it that way. I'm thinking like outsmart himself though, of like, man, I'm thinking long term. I'm trying to tinker with the offense here. Can I get Pollard some touches?
Yeah.
I could see a scenario like that. I don't think the percentage of that scenario happening is likely, in my opinion, though. I think it's more or less 70 to 80%. It's going to be how Zeke has been getting the ball in the past.
I think that fantasy-wise, in standard leagues, Zeke's a borderline, as you said, like top 3 pick. But I just think with, PPR leagues, I just think that there's a couple guys above him.
I think though, if I know the rushing attempts were down in Green Bay, I think having Zeke, he's not going to be an idiot about it. So it might be top 10 just because he has Zeke now.
Yeah.
But then if you add into that he does like just passing and spreading around, maybe Zeke will get a couple more touches that way.
I hope.
But like you said, I'm good with Zeke, man. I see your points. It's just one of those things where I'm taking Zeke, close my eyes, picking him, and I'm good with it. I'm just not really going to worry about it. But if you're talking about a handcuff, you got to handcuff him with Tony Pollard. You have to.
You have to.
I think this year there's a lot less handcuffs you really, really need. But Tony Pollard is definitely one of them. It
100%.
used to be James Conner or the backup for the Steelers whenever it was Le'Veon Bell.
100%.
That was always the number one. Now it has become Elliott for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else on Elliott? Who'd you have? So you had 3 Cook.
Yeah, I had 3 Dalvin Cook and then 4 Kamara.
I have 4 Kamara too. So yeah, our discrepancy is Elliott versus Cook, and actually I have Cook a little bit further down in my top 5.
Just a little disrespect there.
Just a little bit, dude. Just a little bit, like a spot.
That's a little disrespectful there.
I don't know, dude. I like the upside for my 5 guy, and I definitely like Zeke over Cook, just for all the reasons I explained. I think it's just one of those, you pick him and you forget it. Like, he's good, no injuries at all. He's just been awesome throughout his whole career. Now with Kamara, we're probably thinking the same thing then. Dude, he was a top 8 on a per game basis running back last year, and it was an awful year.
Terrible year.
It was an awful year, and he was still top 8. So I think his floor is going to be a top 10, top 11 probably. Yeah. That's his floor, but could be a top 3 guy easily. Yeah. Just because he has been throughout his career. He's always been top 3 or 4, 81 catches every year. You just think it's going to improve a little bit no matter what. The Saints offense is really good. You got Drew Brees back there. So bad year, top 8. You're thinking that improves a little bit. So that's going to be at least top 5, 6, and potentially top 3 or 4 guy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that averages, 6 receptions a game. They got that addition of Emmanuel Sanders this year on the outside. It'll open things up for him more in the passing game, I think. He, as you said, he was a top 5 guy last year drafted in PPR leagues, but he finished 9th in PPR scoring. If we're thinking about, a hiccup year, I think that's what it was. I think that he just had a hiccup year, and I think that, last year might be the worst you'll ever get from Kamara as far as, until he starts really breaking down with age and things like that and injuries. But, last year, even in a bad year, he had 91 targets in the passing game, which is a lot. He played last year, and I think he tweeted it out. He made a tweet on Twitter the other day, or he replied to a post from the NFL, and it was about like how they were showcasing some of his highlights, and he commented back and said, "On one leg, it's 75%, but we back to 100% now." To think that a guy like that can have average 6 receptions a game on a leg that's just torn to shreds at 75%. That's pretty impressive, and I'm really excited to see what he does this year.
No, yeah, I think that's an easy one then. We both got him at 4. Now my 5. Should I talk Cook, though, first? I guess we already talked Cook. But
a little bit, yeah.
So my 5 is Kenyan Drake. My 6 is Dalvin Cook. I'll just start with Cook just because we talked about him recently. I guess I made my points with him, though. I'm more or less worried about...
He had some injuries.
That's about it, dude. Yeah. And I guess I'm a little bit concerned with just how he fell off last year. And I don't think there's a complete correlation to someone having a down second half of some season to their next season. But it's one of those things that you see his beginning and you know what he could be, and then you saw like, man, is he like regressing back to the mean a little bit here? But at the same time, he killed it in the playoff game. So I think more or less with Cook, it's just injuries with me, and I don't know how much I trust that offense as a whole with them losing Stephon Diggs. So,
they still have a good offensive line. They're a run first team. We saw that with Dalvin Cook. And, if you want to talk about handcuffs, a guy you got to look at is Alexander Madison, who was a draft pick from them last year. But, Dalvin Cook, just like Zeke, he's averaging over 20 PPR points a game. This is a team that, as I said, it's run first. He missed 2 games to injury. If he's healthy, he's in an excellent spot. He had 63 targets in the passing game. He caught 53 of them for 519 yards. So he's extremely efficient.
Obviously good
pass
PPR.
catcher.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just feel that this year is going to be the year for him. I really do.
That's my thought is like last year was the year for him.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to settle into maybe that 5, 6, 7 range here. But if you're thinking that, then yes, that's why you should have him as 3 then. Yeah, I completely understand that. Yeah. Where I guess you get what I'm saying. It's just like, all right, I think last year was his hot year. Yeah. Coming off the start like that, he regressed back to the mean. Not really the mean, because he was still having a decent second half. It just wasn't that crazy start that he was having. Yeah. So I think he'll settle into that 5, 6, 7 range. And, if he can stay healthy the full year, I think he does have a top 10 floor for sure. Like, even if he does, have a season like Kamara last year where everything's not there. I think the touches will be there enough to where, all right, he'll power through and he'll get you some stats just throughout the year, and it could be like a top 10, maybe even top 11, 12 floor for him. But I like the reason I got him at 6. I would for the most part, like as I was doing this, I thought I was going to have him at 5, but I really like my number 5 guy's upside, and that's Kenyan Drake.
Yeah.
With the Arizona Cardinals offense.
He's my ride or die this year. I'm 100% picking
Where do you
him.
have him?
I have Kenyan Drake ranked at 7.
Okay.
And, you know, it's just partly due to, you know, we only got to see a sample size.
Yeah.
Compared to some of the guaranteed guys that we've seen for a whole year or years on end. I just think that, you know, the upside that you get with Kenyan Drake is unlike, you know, the upside at the place that he's being picked is unlike any running back you can get in this position. You know, he's a guy that,
yes.
Week 9 on, he was the third best running back in PPR points per game. Week 9 on, he had 19 touches a game, over 100 scrimmage yards a game.
That's still with David Johnson still being there a little bit.
Yeah, and not only that, they had Chase Edmonds there. Chase Edmonds was a guy that when David Johnson was hurt before they traded for him, he was a dude that was putting up number 1 fantasy weeks. I mean, it's a great offense.
Some people are concerned about that.
Back.
Some people are concerned about that with maybe him taking some of Drake's touches.
No.
I just don't see it, dude.
Yeah,
I think Drake's the talent
100%.
there. And when we talk about people in the top 10 or just running backs in general, you want a guy that you feel like there's not going to be much competition. Now, if you want to make that argument, I can't really dispute it. I just don't think it's there at all. I think Drake's going to be the lead guy there. If you look, like you said, at his second half with the Cardinals, he was getting 19 touches, and I think they see that. He came in there midseason, was able to do what he did, and it was impressive. It was awesome. If you combine, what did you say, he was top 3 in points per game?
He was top 3 in points per game.
There was a stat I saw.
When he came to Arizona, the first game with Arizona, he played 8 games. In those 8 games, he had 8 touchdowns. He averaged over 5.
He had one with the 4, I think.
He averaged over 5.2 yards a carry. And he averaged 80 rushing yards a game. I mean, dude.
That's without DeAndre Hopkins being there. That's Kyler Murray in his rookie season.
Yeah.
If you look at his 8 games with the Cardinals, I don't want to say this would exactly have happened if you were to do this, but if you doubled his 8 games to a 16-game slate, 1,300 yards on the ground, 16 touchdowns, 56 receptions, 340 yards receiving. That is, a top 3 year right there.
100%.
So I could see it happening, dude. I think everything in Arizona is improving in terms of an offensive standpoint. Kyler Murray's going into his second year. I just think Drake's going to be the guy. And the reason I have him over Cook and the reason I have him at this 5 spot is just simply this is who I would take. I would much prefer risking my RB1 on Kenyan Drake. If I can't get one of the top 4 guys there and I'm going to take a running back, I would rather risk it on Kenyan. You might even be able to get Kenyan Drake in the second round.
Yeah. I mean, I'd
rather have Kenyan Drake as my RB1 than some of these other, and especially in terms of Cook, like him versus Cook, I would just take Kenyan Drake over Cook.
I think the Cardinals are going to be a fantasy gold mine.
That's what I mean, dude.
If I think that I can get, D-Hop and then Drake in the second round, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I mean, 100%.
So and the other thing, this was another weird stat that I found. It was if you combine all of the Arizona running back stats up over the course of the season, they would have been the number 3 fantasy running back.
Think about that.
Now, that's a little bit misleading just from the standpoint, there's going to be someone taking some of those yards, maybe a couple touchdowns. But, all right, if you knock that down a bit, that's going to be top 5. So that's kind of why I got Kenyan Drake in the top 5, dude. I just think the potential is there, and I think he's going to deliver. Like, he's their guy. He's always had the talent. I don't think Miami's been able to use him right, and now that he's in Arizona and everything's on the uptick there, I definitely like his potential.
100%. You had him at what, 5?
I had 5, yes. I think that's high. Where do most people have him?
I had him ranked 7.
I think a lot of people have him around 10-ish,
A lot of people, let me
right?
see where Matthew Berry had him at. Matthew Berry had him at... he had him at 13.
Yeah, dude. I don't see
unless
that. I think the probably their argument would just be the Chase Edmonds thing.
Yeah,
that's what their argument would be.
Who'd you have at 6?
Cook.
Okay, Dalvin Cook.
So where you at 6? Because you said Kenyan Drake at 7.
6. I had Austin Eckler.
Dude.
The Chargers. Yeah, dude. I mean, people were hating on him, but I
have no hate on him. I have hate on the Chargers now without Phillip Rivers. That's what I'm concerned about. But go ahead.
even if that's your argument, you got to look at the fact of just like how Tyrod Taylor is just as a natural quarterback. He's a natural conservative quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to check the ball down a lot. He had the 8th in the last 2 years. He had the 8th highest percentage of checkdowns. I think that a guy like Eckler is just going to eat on that. He's going to feast. He was 7 yards away last year from reaching the 1,000-yard milestone, not only for receiving, but just as a rusher, he had, I believe, over 557 yards. I mean, I'm not saying he's like a McCaffery and he's going to have any year like that, but as a PPR, fantasy back, this dude
what was
eat.
his total last year? He was for points per game, he was number 6 in the whole league, and that's with Melvin Gordon.
Gordon come back at week 5.
Like was he number 1? He had to have been in the top 3 those first 5 weeks or whatever it was. Like, he was doing absurd, and he's still able to put up. He's always been able to get in that like top 20 range for his career. I think, how many years does he play? He's only played like 3 seasons, but I think even last year he was in like a top 20 range in PPR just based off those receptions. That's even with Melvin Gordon being there. I could look him up right now.
He was only getting 45.8% of the shares in that backfield and still put up those numbers.
Shares as in snaps?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was getting that, and not only that, if you look at that and like, you got to think.
Not top 20, dude. I was completely off on that.
You got to think this dude is going to shatter what he did last year as receiving. And if he shatters that, dude had 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, wow.
Well, actually, no, I might be right on top 20. His 2018 year, he had 104 rushes for 554 yards, 3 touchdowns.
He was a slept-on guy.
And then 39 receptions for 404 yards and 3 touchdowns. That might have been top 25.
He was he was trying to make a thing, but, it's hard, just as I think that Phillip Lindsay's going to see this year. It's hard to make an impression when you have a running back like Melvin Gordon in the backfield. Melvin Gordon is one of the most underrated players in the league.
Really?
I think that...
I'm thinking the opposite.
Oh.
Why?
Melvin Gordon, he's one of the most. I mean, like, I like to do a thing with the eye. I call it the eye test.
I agree with you on that.
When you watch him,
I agree with you
can just see that, like, he's just a difference maker. He's a dude that just can run. He doesn't care if he's running into you, running around you. He's powerful enough to run through you, but he's also fast enough to run around you. It's just a deadly combination. I think that, it's just hard for players to succeed with someone like that. Even the Denver's head coach, I just read an article yesterday when I was doing some research about this, they're already saying, like, yeah, he's a 3-down back. We expect to, not have Lindsay on the field as much, maybe in passing situations. Like, they're already saying this. I think that it's just going to be a big year for Melvin Gordon. I really do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with Eckler.
Yeah.
I guess so. I have Eckler down. I got him at my 13, dude. I have him at my 13. Here's the reason. I do want to have him higher. I don't, like I said, I don't know how much I believe in the Chargers offense. It's one of those things that
it's sketchy.
I know. I don't buy it, dude. Like, I don't want, like, if I'm risking a pick on something, I'd rather have that person be in a prolific offense that I think, like you said, with the Cardinals, it's going to be fantasy gold. So that's why Kenyan Drake makes sense to me. Whereas with Eckler, I know the Tyrod Taylor stat with the checkdowns. The other thing that concerns me, though, is he's never had a year over 3,000 yards. So he could be checking the ball down, but still you have Keenan Allen. He has more weapons with the Chargers than he ever had with the Bills. Shady
100%.
McCoy was probably his best weapon up with the Bills. Now he has Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
I don't know, could Eckler get, man, you think 90 receptions is replicable here? That's the problem. I think it's going to be spread out a little bit more where it might be 60 or 70.
He had 92 catches last year.
I know, that's what I mean. I don't know if it's going to be 92 again with now Tyrod Taylor having Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Henry, and him only throwing for 3,000 yards in his career, like never past that.
My prediction for him next year was like a little over 100 catches.
Man, dude, you wait. So do you have Tyrod Taylor having a good year?
I mean, I think that Tyrod Taylor is a dude that.
Or do you think?
I don't think he's going to be there the whole year.
You see Keenan Allen then on the down.
I don't think that.
And Mike Williams.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think that Tyrod Taylor is going to be there for as long as we think. I think
you're saying Herbert.
Yeah, I think I'm not saying it's going to be beginning, and I'm not saying it's going to be mid. Maybe they want to get him some games in like that don't really matter towards the end, like they do with Mahomes.
Yeah,
to prep him. But I think that we're going to see Herbert at some point this year. I mean, Tyrod Taylor is a dude that, you know, he's a good quarterback. He's a good fill-in guy, I feel. Like, and that's all he's ever been in his career. I mean, he's never really, you know, took that leap to be elite. But I don't know. I mean, I think that he'll have enough just to get Eckler his touches, just to get Eckler the numbers.
The argument for Eckler that gets me saying, you know, I should have him up a little bit higher is I don't think they got anyone else. Are we saying they really believe in Justin Jackson like that? No. That's the problem. And he was able to do it in that limited time span. That's probably one of the arguments against it is, you know, can he hold up the full season just with his body type and his frame and all that stuff? But, I mean, he's proved it when he was given the feature role to be a PPR monster, dude. Like, he was putting up crazy stats. The problem is, like I said, I just have concern about the Chargers offense. I guess it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, like with David Johnson. Even though we knew he was going to get a lot of work and we knew that he was talented, probably even more talented than Eckler, that Cardinals system at the time, their offensive system, it was just something you couldn't buy into. They would get down early. But, I mean, the Chargers, I think as a whole, are probably a better team than the Cardinals were back then.
Yeah.
Because some people are having them as a sleeper in the AFC West. I'm just not buying into the Chargers. It's one of those things where I think people are really going to love Eckler, or you're going to be – because I've seen some stuff. Dude, like, there's probably people on ESPN, some of these rankings that have Eckler, like you said, like you have him, like in the top 10, maybe top 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Whereas I've seen some other ranking lists where they have him down in the teens like me. Actually, worse than me. Some of them have him down in like 15, 16, 17 range. So that's probably the most polarizing pick in fantasy this year.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Dude, it's there.
It can go either way.
Let me put it to you this way. If I could grab Eckler in the 3rd round, yes. But he might be an early 2nd round pick.
He's going to go within. I bet you he goes within.
You think 1st round maybe?
Nah, I
End
would
of
say
first?
Yeah, I'd say like early 2nd.
See, that's really where I don't want to pick him. I would be comfortable taking him in the 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, and if he falls to that, I'm going to be the happiest man in
I guess
fantasy.
what I mean. Do you feel comfortable taking him that early?
I mean,
2nd round, yes.
Now last year.
So as your RB1, what if you did double running backs? You had RB. You pick
if I can get him early 2nd, if I'm picking like.
What if you scoop Drake and him as your first 2 backs?
You're set. I think you're set. I mean, I think that you're set, and I say that just based on the fact of, you know, you have your guys secured up, and, you know, we're going to get into it a little bit later, but there's a lot of sleeper picks, and there's a lot of guys that are going in the later rounds that can really have a boom.
No, I agree.
This year, I think that there's a lot of dudes, if you look at, you know, like the rookie running backs are out there. It's such a deep class. I really think that
I agree with you.
Running backs are pretty deep.
And some of them have really good opportunities. Some of them have really good opportunities.
Sure.
All right, so that was your what? Jeez, dude, I'm getting lost here.
No, so
I even have it numbered here too. Like I should be following along here. So, I should mark it down with a pen.
Well, here I can just probably.
All right, we're on 7 now. We're both on 7.
Yeah. So okay. I had Drake for 7. So we already talked about him.
We talked about Drake. My 7, Miles Sanders, dude.
Okay.
I have Miles Sanders. Now, some of the other players around him, actually, I'll just compare him to Henry because I have Henry at 8. Mm-hmm. Now, I have Miles Sanders over Henry. Yeah. I have Miles Sanders over Henry. Pretty much an upside play. This is one of those things where there's no one else at running back there. But the thing with Miles Sanders, as opposed to maybe an Eckler or maybe some other running backs that have an opportunity, maybe don't have another running back trying to compete with them, dude, he's got elite talent. I mean, we've seen that. And whenever Jordan Howard was in there for a stretch, obviously he wasn't getting his touches like that. But then, you know, Miles Sanders had the backfield the rest of the way. And he proved to be an awesome player. 50 receptions last year, 63 targets. And like I said, this is with Howard being in there for, it was the first half of the year. Howard, obviously, there was a stretch of like 4 or 5 games where he was getting the bulk of the work before he went out. Yeah. Now, the only concern, in my opinion, could be is with Peterson. He's always split carries with his running backs over the past, I think he's been a coach for, 3-4 years here. But at the same time, I think there's a reason they just have Sanders there. Like, who else is going to compete with him? And I think he's got the talent. It's one of those things where everything matches up, in my opinion. I think Peterson is a good offensive coach. He's going to be able to get him touches in the right way. The 50 receptions definitely helps in PPR. Can that bump up to 70 this year, having a full-time workload? So I definitely like Miles Sanders at the 7th spot. I think people are actually lower on him than that for the most part.
I think I have him at 13, I believe. Yeah.
I just like the upside play there, dude. It's one of those things where I would rather bet on all these things being, like I said, Eagles, good offensive system. You have Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, great offensive coach. The only knock is, like I said, they've split carries amongst running backs in the past. But who else do they have now? And their running backs have always been successful, like as a collective. Now it's just Miles Sanders, and he's got all that talent, dude. So
yeah, I mean, he caught fire at the second half of the year. I mean, he really didn't make a statement until that second half, But he had 509 receiving yards on 50 catches. He has the 11th most total running back yards. Or total yards by a rookie running back. I'm sorry,
I'm awful.
It's all typed. It's typed all weird here, but he has the 11th.
I'm awful too, dude.
Yeah, he has the 11th most total yards by a rookie running back in the last decade, which is pretty impressive. When you think about like guys, how Christian McCaffery and all them came in the league. He has the 6th most receiving yards by a rookie running back in the last decade. And, something he struggled with in college that they were really wondering how it was going to turn over to the NFL was his fumbles. He was a very, very big turnover guy in college. And last year he only had 2 fumbles on 229 touches, which really ain't bad.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think that you're getting a lot of upside with him.
That's what the play is there.
Yeah, he's a big upside guy. He's a guy that there's no one there. Now, will the Eagles bring in a guy like a Lamar Miller or someone like that?
Yeah.
I don't think.
Like Devonta Freeman's out there still.
But
I don't see it, dude.
I just don't see it.
You got Miles Sanders after his rookie year looking like he could be like an elite running back in the league. I don't know why you would want to mess with that. Yeah. I just don't get it.
And you don't even mess with that. Just mess with his headspace. You know what I mean? This guy probably thinks he's going in and getting it done. Just give the guy a chance and see what he can do for a full year. I think he's going to be the clear-cut number one there. I think that
because the argument could be, like I said, with Peterson splitting all these carries, he hasn't had a guy with Miles Sanders' talent like that in his spot in his career.
Right.
You could argue, LeGarrette Blount, like,
come on.
But at that point in LeGarrette's career, and just even his running style is just different too. His running style is completely different. If you're just talking about a running back that can do it all, Sanders is over Blount for sure.
Yeah,
now, Blount, in certain scenarios, the Patriots were able to capitalize on him completely. But in terms of the Eagles system, like Sanders, I don't think they've had a better guy than Sanders at all. And like I said, as a collective, the running backs have always been successful. Now all that goes to Sanders. Man, it makes sense to me.
It really does.
Adds up. I think you want to put him a little higher. You're thinking about it.
I might make a little post video
little
adjustment here. Yeah.
So who do you got? Did you say your 7?
Yeah, I had Drake at 7.
Yeah, we talked about him.
We both have Derrick Henry at 8.
Okay.
Derrick Henry's a dude that, for standard leagues, he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean.
He was number 2 last year in standard. Yep.
But for PPR, just the receiving concerns with him. Yeah, it's just not
I have it written down here, 18 receptions. I could double check that. But considering everything that he was able to do last year, at the same time, only 18 receptions still.
And not only that, they lost one of their best tackles in Jack Conklin last year to free agency. You don't really know what can happen. I mean, the door's open to possibilities. Is he going to have another 1,500-yard season?
Yeah, 18 receptions.
It's hard. I mean, 15. Derrick Henry made it look easy last year, but 1,500 yards is very hard, especially in the NFL. And
something happened, dude, that I can't explain with Henry, Tannehill, the Titans. It was
out of
one
nowhere.
Of those things. Exactly. Because if you look at the rest of his career, especially from a PPR standpoint, dude, I don't even think he's in the top 20 for PPR, really. No. I mean, his 2018 year, he had the 12 touchdowns, but still only 15 receptions for 99 yards receiving. Yeah. So that is definitely something that's concerning to you. I don't think the 1,516 touchdowns on the ground is going to be repeatable this year.
I don't think so. Especially, teams are going to know how.
He doesn't add the receiving element.
So teams are just going to stack the box. They're going to make Tannehill beat him. Now, if Tannehill can start beating him with his arm, look out.
He did last year. That's the thing, dude. It's one of those things. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. That was one of those things. So, if you do it again this year, then maybe I'll give it to you, but I'm still not buying into it.
The new GOAT, Tannehill.
Dude.
The next one.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to. Let me see if I had anything else for Henry here. He's dude. With all that, without the receptions, but having that crazy rushing year, he still finished 4th in PPR, which is pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we're going
to see regression.
We're expecting a downgrade there. So I think 8's a good spot then. I don't think between 8, 10, 8 to 12 is out of Henry's range at all, finishing in PPR.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Matthew Berry, Field Yates, they had him ranked 6, 7, 6, 6, 8. Yeah, I mean, he's right in this range. Just the pure sense of, as we said, just the PPR. I think that he's gonna have a decent year in standard, but just I don't see it in PPR.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, I think this is where things get interesting. At least for me, I know.
Well, things are gonna get real interesting.
If I was talking to myself and having this discussion about why I have guys in certain ways, it just gets interesting here because I think I got some names in certain spots no one would really consider, but I got some reasoning. Now, right. Todd Gurley is who I have at 9.
Wow. Okay.
And like I said, with some of these other guys in the top 10 here, it's just him in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It's just him. And if you're comparing him to Devonta Freeman, with injuries, whatever beating Todd Gurley has taken throughout his career, I'm still taking Todd Gurley any day of the week over Devonta Freeman. Devonta Freeman, in my opinion, I think he's always been overhyped, especially in terms of fantasy. He had a really good run for, I think it was an 7-8 stretch of games where he took the fantasy world by storm. And I think he's been living off that brand since, where he has had some productive years, especially just receiving and rushing and just all that type of stuff, productive, but just not to that standard where you're thinking, is this a top 5 guy? He's always been someone you could plug and play as your flex, but
the offense always played into his hand too. Atlanta's always had Julio there. You're not going to stack the box when you have guys like Julio and Ridley on the outside. I think that, as I said, Devonta Freeman really played into that offense well, and I think that overall he's a better running back than Devonta Freeman. Gurley is. Mm-hmm. I think that, even with the concerns about the arthritic stuff and his knee and stuff, I think that they'll be able to handle that well and still give him a fantasy year.
Well, here's what I'm thinking.
A fantasy relevant year.
I think it was a weird thing last year with the Rams. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say they were setting up Gurley to fail because that's kind of ridiculous, but I think they were trying to phase him out of the system where I think we're just ready to move on. Maybe we see something that you weren't what you were in the past, which, it's probably true. Some of his years were completely absurd, but can we get 90%, 80, 90% of that in Atlanta with him being the only guy and all those touches that Devonta Freeman was getting is going to Gurley? Devonta Freeman still had, hold on, I got this written down here. I got one of these extra sheets of paper I ripped off here. Devonta Freeman, he was still the number 20 running back last year per game. And like we said, in terms of talent, I'm still taking Gurley. And then you add that, even though it was a weird year for Gurley, he still had 12 touchdowns. You maybe could expect that that's going to be 7, 8, 9 if you're talking about regressions, but 12 is not completely out of the question, especially if you're the only back in Atlanta. And like I was mentioning, just completely weird scenario where I think in Atlanta they're completely bought in with Todd Gurley. He's going to be getting the touches. And Devonta Freeman, where do I have this written down? 59 receptions last year. Where are those receptions going to in terms of a running back? You know how the Atlanta Falcons play.
Yeah.
They're going to check it down. Matt Ryan's going to sling it around out there. And Gurley's going to be in all this time. What other back? I think here's their backups. Ito Smith, Brian Hill, Olsen. You're just going to have Gurley in there for 80, 90% of the time.
Yeah. I could see him getting it easily. At the very bottom, a 65, 70% snap share. I think that, with his size, he's 6'1", 224. He's still a big guy. He's going to have a good year there. I think that, as I said, the offense is going to play into his hair.
I don't think it's a sexy pick. I think people were kind of over Gurley, but I think the opportunity is going to be there.
I had him ranked way lower than you. I had him ranked 15. At my 9 spot, I had Josh Jacobs. He was 7th in the NFL and on the ground with a little over 1,100 yards rushing. he had the second most fantasy points among all rookie running backs last year. If he stayed healthy during that last those couple final games, I think he could have had the most. He had 242 carries for 1,150 yards, averaged 4.75 yards a carry as a rookie. As a rookie to do things like that, especially in the fantasy black hole that the Raiders are, I think it's pretty impressive. He generated 191 fantasy points, an average of 14.7 a game. But
steady.
The majority of his success came from the running game, and I think that this year you're going to see a lot more passing game for him.
Okay, so
and
that's my concern.
I think that the uptick in the passing game combined with what we know he can do on the ground is really going to push him into. I mean, debatably, I'm not saying he is, but you could see him have top 5 numbers this year. I think with the way that offense is going to be run with John Gruden, you never know what's going to happen, but. I really think that I have high hopes for him. I think you want to talk about upside guys. I think this is a guy that has a lot of upside. He's a big guy that they rely on in the red zone. I think he's going to have a really good year this year.
I'm with you. I don't know about fantasy, though. My concern is the receiving. Mm-hmm. That's about it, because I think he's going to have another awesome year. Now, last year, even with him having an awesome year, he was 15 in the PPR rankings here. So I think, where do I have him ranked? I have him 14. So I have him 14. Okay. So that's where he was last year. The thing was, that was points per game, because if you're looking at overall, he's probably a little bit higher just because he's probably a little bit lower just because he was hurt a little bit. But in terms of points per game, at that 15 spot, dude, the receiving concerns me. That's just about it. I mean, if you're going to make the argument it's going to uptick, then I see it, and I would see the upside there completely. Yeah. The only concern for me is I don't know if that's going to be completely there. I think he's going to be getting, almost all the carries there. At the same time, they did bring in Lynn Bowden, who was a receiver in college for Kentucky, who plays kind of like that slash role,
he's like that
running back. You have Jalen Richards there, who actually got more receptions than Josh Jacobs. So are we thinking then Jacobs just will phase Richards out, and then Bowden's just too young that he's not going to be getting as much time?
I think that, like what you just said, but I think that, when you look at his just the eyes, I keep saying the eye test. Josh
definitely, dude. I had him on one of my teams last year. He did really. It was really steady.
Yeah.
See, the upside for me with Jacobs is top 8 or 9 upside. I don't know if he's got that top 3 or 5 upside, where I think his floor is top 15. Like he's gonna be around that 14-15 range, which is why I don't know if I have the Gurley thing. I could see him being top 5. As weird as it sounds,
I think he could be top 10. I don't know about top 5.
That's what I mean. So we're just kind of off on what we think the upside could be.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I think Gurley can have one of those years down in Atlanta where it's like, hey, you guys forgot about me. Like this, this is what I could be doing.
Or
Jacobs is simply just based off the receiving. If he gets the receiving up, then yes, dude, I would put him in the top 10 for sure.
100%.
I just don't know if that's gonna happen with Richards being there and then them bringing in Bowden too. Mm-hmm. You could make the argument, though, just, maybe we can have Jacobs take that workload from Richards and just always have him on the field. It might help us disguise some things better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like Jacobs, dude. I just don't know about for fantasy and that upside play.
Okay.
Now,
10,
dude, another one.
I think I know. I think I remember this. This is just.
Are you disgusted by this?
I'm disgusted.
Really?
I think I'm disgusted.
Who is it? Do you remember?
You got James Conner there.
I have James Conner at 10. And for
you're feeding him though.
Feeding him.
Deke, you're biased.
But the people, they think I'm biased with this.
It's crazy.
No, you think that's just why I have him at 10? No, dude. The thing with Conner, we look back at his 2018 year.
Big year.
Was top 7,
big year.
And if he didn't get hurt, was maybe gonna be a little bit better.
Could have been top 5,
and a points per game basis. He finished top 7, I believe. Mm-hmm. That was his first year in the system, and like we said, he got hurt. Now we got Ben coming back. We got all the things that I mentioned with Ben whenever we were talking about the fantasy quarterback rankings. I think our offense is gonna be 50 times better than what it was last year. 50 times. I mean, we got Eric Ebron there. I think just everything's going to be opened up to where we're going to see the offense operate in a much similar way that it was in 2018. Deontay Johnson emerging, Eric Ebron, Vance McDonald, we draft Claypool, James Washington ain't bad at all, 700 yards with Duck and Mason for him last year. Juju hopefully bouncing back. So I think the offense is going to be opening up. And then we talk about talent. I think the talent's there. He had a Pro Bowl year, obviously, in 18. And then there is no one else. That was one of the question marks with the Steelers is, are they going to draft another running back, or are they going to bring someone in with free agency?
They brought in Anthony McFarland.
We brought in McFarland. That was a 4th-round pick. And I think McFarland's more less a specialist. And then we talk about some of these rookies. If we're going to say with Lynn Bowden and the Raiders that, man, he might not get as much time just because of the offseason and all that structure is, then we could probably say the same thing for McFarland, where Ben trusts Connor. He knows he could be blocking for him back there. He's going to have, 80 to 90% of the snaps maybe. I think that's what Bell was having in his prime, and even Connor, whenever Bell was out, it was in that 80% range. So I don't see why that's not going to happen again this year. The biggest thing's health. If he just stays healthy, the touches and the talent is all there for James Conner. And if you look at last year, as much as this is probably going to be a stupid thing to say, but it's also something to consider, in that offense that he played last year, with his poor health, he still finished on a per-game basis as a top 17 running back. And I just said it's going to be 50 to 100 times better than what it was last year if you talk about an offense as a whole, and then you're hoping that his health is going to be better this year, which it looks like with all of his Instagram posts and his videos and stuff. So, dude, I don't see why 10 is out of the possibility. If I'm picking, here's the thing. I'm sure there's going to be backs taken above Connor and above Gurley, but that's what I like about these running backs is I'm going to be able to get them at an ADP that's a lot better than what I think they're going to finish at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, the offense is a lot better. I just think that his leash this year is going to be a lot shorter than it was in the past. I think with the addition of McFarland, I think with, the Samuels back there, Benny Snell, because we've really never seen what Benny Snell can do under Ben. We've seen what Benny Snell can do under these bum quarterbacks we have behind Ben, but Rudolph is just. I hate Mason Rudolph. I'm sorry. I think he's probably the worst backup in the NFL. I'd rather have Brian Hoyer, but no, I really do believe that Connor's going to have a better year. As you said, with what he did with Ben the last time he was in, had a full season with him. But yeah, just the injury concerns.
It's probably the same thing I'm thinking with Dalvin Cook, maybe a little bit.
It's just like, you look at Dalvin Cook's injury history and you look at James Conner, and it's just like, dude, it's not even compare. Like, James Conner is a dude that will get hurt, come back, and then the first play get hurt. And then he'll come back, and then he'll get hurt again the same day. It's as a fantasy owner, it's something like I rank James Conner 20 just solely based on the fact that, like, I just don't like his injury. Like, how often he gets injured. It's just...
You would have him higher. You'd have him in the teens, maybe?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I just can't draft him and draft him when, think about the guys you can get inside those numbers. I mean, you had him ranked 10. I mean, you got guys like, what if Josh Jacobs falls? What if Nick Chubb's there? What if an Aaron Jones or a Miles Sanders or a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, someone like that's there? I'm taking all them over James Conner just based on what we've seen with him as often as he gets hurt. But yeah, I mean, when you're playing in an offense with Ben Roethlisberger and the offensive weapons that we have, and the tight end that we added in Ebron, I mean, it's a like we said about the Cardinals, it's a fantasy goldmine. I mean, dude, like
it has been over the past 4 or 5 years.
Look at how good we were with AB and Bell. I mean, we were the
dude. That's
best.
why you handcuffed Bell with Connor and then D'Angelo Williams, because as soon as you lost Bell, you weren't losing that top running back production at all. Not at all.
No.
So
those guys would literally step in and go from nobodies to number one receiver.
That's what I'm thinking with Connor. Dude, if he stays healthy, like if you look at his stats in the 2018 year, dude, 55 receptions. Not a lot of people think of him as this pass catcher. 55 receptions, 12 rushing touchdowns, 173 yards, and then, I mean, the receiving yards, it was 500. And that was only in 13 games, probably 12 and a half, because it looks like, he got hurt in one of them. But, like, dude, if you extrapolate that over a full 16, what's that become? 70 receptions for 600 yards, 650 yards, and then the rushing yards go up to 1,100, maybe a couple more touchdowns. Dude, that is That is awesome. That's why I have him 10, and we talk about upside. I think he has way more upside than Jacobs and some of these other dudes that I have lower. Problem is the injury. Yeah. Now, if you compare Connor with maybe some, if you hit on some of your sleeper picks, and if Connor gets hurt and one of those sleeper picks hit, then you could be good with that. But, dude, I just like the upside there. I think it's definitely a top 5 upside. I guess you could say surprised if he ends up in the top 5 just because that means he would have had to stay healthy for the whole year. But, dude, if he's there, I mean, all the touches and the production is going to be there as well. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Yeah. Just with how the Steelers' offense has been. Yeah. Anything else with Connor?
It's called the Big Ben effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking for this year.
For 10, for me, I had Nick Chubb.
Okay.
I mean, we saw what he did, without Kareem Hunt last year. He was averaging 18.9 PPR points a game, 11.8% target share average per game. Then when Kareem Hunt came back, he dipped down to 13 PPR points per game, 6.8 target share average per game. But I think with the new addition of their new head coach, he's a guy that likes to lean on one running back. They bolstered their offensive line in the offseason. I think it's going to open up more lanes for Chubb. He finished 8th in PPR scoring last year. He ran for 1,500 yards on the ground, averaged 5 yards a carry and 8 touchdowns. That's all with Kareem Hunt there. I think that, with their new coach that they added, he's a guy that likes to lean on one running back. He's a dude that really likes to pound the rock a lot. They bolstered their offensive line last year. It's just going to open up more lanes for him. I just think he's going to have a really big year.
I guess I'll talk about Chubb now too then. So
Where'd you have him ranked?
I got him low, and we talked about this because we looked at each other's rankings before this, and you said we're definitely going to disagree on this.
Oh, yeah.
My only problem, I think this is a personal thing because I can't deny Chubb's talent. I can't deny the production. There's two things. One is that even with all that production last year, he was still only top 11 in points per game per PPR, just because the receptions weren't necessarily there for Chubb. They were before Hunt came in, but that definitely dropped off a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, that brings me to my second concern is just that Kareem Hunt's there, and we know Kareem Hunt's an extreme talent, which is crazy, dude. Just because if he was on any other team where he was the feature back, we'd have him in our top 4 or 5 right now,
easily.
So I don't like drafting in these scenarios where I don't. Yeah. We know Chubb's the guy, but it's one of those things where you're always looking over your shoulder and checking on a week-to-week basis. What's the coach saying about touches? What is Kareem Hunt getting better in practice? Is he carving out a role in the offense? I just like having the guy and not worrying about that because I've done this before. My example is in terms of like a top, a first or second round running back who had the upside and everyone thought was going to do great. I remember Gio Bernard going into his second year, and he was supposed to be the feature guy, and I drafted. No, wait. I'm trying to think. I think this was the same year. I drafted him, and he had an awesome start to the year. Then they had Jeremy Hill, though,
just destroyed.
Yeah,
home wrecker.
Exactly. That's what
Jeremy
happened.
Hill's the home wrecker.
It's I'm not saying this scenario is going to be that extreme because I feel like Chubb's still going to get over 1,000 yards. He's going to get his touches. Whereas with Bernard, it really flipped to Jeremy Hill. I don't think we're going to get that type of flip where it would ever become only Kareem Hunt's offense, unless Chubb got hurt and somehow he was going off.
That's the only situation I think
this is just a personal preference thing. I don't think he was top 11 last year with that great of a season. I think that's kind of my point. Just being top 11, I don't know if he's going to top that. I don't know if he's going to necessarily top last year.
Is this a year that we could see 2 running backs on the same team in the top 20?
Yeah, I could see. That's what I mean. I could see that. I could see that as like a Kareem Hunt could be a sleeper. And I think
that if that happens, though, then my assessment of Nick Chubb here at 10 is just.
I see you. Well, as we're talking, you could see when I'm ranking these players, I say I like these guys because I could see a top 5 upside.
Yeah,
I think Chubb's floor.
I think that
is
you could
15
see
floor.
I think that you could see a top. I'm not saying top 5, but I think a top 10 upside for Nick Chubb. I really think you could see it. I think
definitely 10. Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that as I said with the eye test, he's a guy that is so explosive.
Absolutely.
He's so good, and as good as Kareem Hunt is, and as good as we've seen Kareem Hunt when he's the lone back, like we did in Kansas City. We saw what he did his rookie year. We saw what he did there. I just really do believe that Nick Chubb is that much better than him, and I think that I think that even if you put Kareem Hunt there, he's not going to do as good as Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb is a talent that gets disrespected a lot. I think just because of the team he's on, with how bad the Browns are as an organization in a whole, I just think he gets disrespected, and I think that this year is going to be the year that he really makes his name felt and establishes his presence.
All right, so my number 11 then, Leonard Fournette. Dude, low key last year, top 10 PPR back in terms of points per game. Low key. I mean, one of the knocks with him was, man, he just doesn't get the receptions. Over 70 receptions last year for Leonard Fournette. Had an awesome year, and like I said with a bunch of these other guys, who's backing him up? He's going to be getting the workload down there. The only thing you could say maybe is injuries.
Reichwell Armstead's there.
Huh?
The backup for them is Reichwell Armstead.
Is that, though?
Just around. He's a bum.
There could be an argument. Who's down there? Didn't they bring in? I was reading something. Chris Thompson or something like that. Because isn't Gruden the coordinator now down there?
Yeah, maybe, but I really do believe that if they did it, Reichwell Armstead is. I don't want to say he's better than Chris Thompson if he's there, but I just think that I think that Reichwell Armstead would be the next guy in line. We saw glimpses of Armstead last year. He wasn't too bad, but I just don't think he's anywhere near Leonard Fournette's skill.
So that was that. I just wanted to fact check all that. That is the argument I was reading, though, that Jay Gruden's down there now, and he likes Chris Thompson as that guy. I'm gonna dump off, 20 or 30
passing.
So
guy,
that's
like
the thing. Like, could some of that go from it be taken away from Fournette 70 receptions? Dude, at the same time, it goes back to what I was saying with like Zeke and some of these elite guys. Dude, this is Leonard Fournette. I think you're an idiot, and the Jaguars as an organization, the Jaguars as a team, and how they run things. Maybe if they can just be some semblance of a team and be smart about things, Fournette should have a very similar year this year that he had last year. And then you got to think, man, the touchdowns might go up a little bit. You have Gardner Minshew coming into his second year. Is he going to be a little bit better? Are they going to get in the red zone a little bit more? That's possible, because if you look at his rushing touchdowns, it was only 3, and he was still a top 9 running back last year in terms of points per game. He had 0 receiving touchdowns. So we had 76 receptions for him last year, 500 receiving yards. Can that become 60 receptions? Stay maybe in that 500 range. Maybe it's 450. But then he has a touchdown or 2 receiving, and then his rushing touchdowns go from 3 to 6 or 7. And this is a contract year, dude. He's going to be want to be playing and balling out.
The only concern I have about Leonard Fournette, not as much as the stats or anything, but it's just they're talking about trading him. I mean, if he goes to a team that
you're worried about a trade mid-season or something like that.
100%. Okay. I'm worried about a trade, not only mid-season, because
that could happen.
They're not going to want to pay him that money. They are pretty open with it about their trade. They're trying to trade him. They've had him on the block since, I believe, I want to say like early April. But yeah, I mean, there's not much interest for him, so I could see him, going for a mid-round pick, maybe a 4th or a 5th round pick to a team that, he would be maybe the guy, maybe not the guy. Maybe they're adding him to a team, and you have a situation like a Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt situation. Maybe he'll go to a team like the Steelers. I mean, I'm not trying to, but maybe he goes to a team like the Steelers where you have Connor and you have him now, and now there's a share between it, and you just. When you're talking about a guy that you're drafting in the top 10, top 11, it's a guy that you really want to know that, okay, not only am I safe and there's upside, but I just don't know if it's just safe with him. Just based on that, and I don't even know if I have him. Yeah, I don't have him.
What?
I don't have him in my top 20.
No.
Yeah, I don't have him in my top 20.
Dude, he was top 9 last year, man.
Yeah, I don't think this year I have him in my top 20. I don't think that. I don't think he's gonna do what you think he is. I think that, even the experts have him ranked. Like Matthew Berry has him 22.
I know.
Carabell has him 23. The other guys have him 17, 16. I mean, it's everyone's concerned about the trade. As I said, they're open about it. They want to move him. It's just a matter of where he's going to go, I think, at this point. So, yeah, I imagine him going to a team like the Eagles, where you have a Miles Sanders and a Leonard Fournette, and now you're looking at a time. I mean, timeshares are, when you don't have a guy like Nick Chubb, it's the worst thing you can be involved in as a fantasy owner for your running back, especially a guy that you're number 2, or maybe you're, depending on how you draft, maybe you're RB1. I mean, it's something that you gotta pay attention to.
I could see a scenario where maybe a running back gets hurt and they trade for him, and he does become the guy.
And that would be beautiful.
I could see a scenario maybe where a running back's underperforming. I mean, you could see like in Miami, or teams that don't have that definitive running back, where it's like, all right, we're doing really good, but man, if we added, a major running back here, that it could take us to the next level. So that could happen. And I'm not rolling out your scenario at all, because that could definitely be the case as well. Yeah. There is the risk from that standpoint, the trade thing, and him being on his last year, they're trying to get rid of him, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I just think, dude, if he's there on a contract year, he's gonna want to ball out. And last year's numbers, I think, are easily replicable. In terms of maybe the receptions go down a little bit, but he only had 3 touchdowns in total with rushing and receiving. So I think that'll take a kick up. And then his rushing yards, just in general, dude, 1,152 yards. I mean, he could definitely do that again if he gets the time. If he's the feature guy down there, I have no questions about it. Now, if you want to knock the trade stuff, then I don't blame you. I think I'm willing to take that risk where I can get him. And this is the thing: if I in a vacuum, I have him versus all these other guys. I think I would just take him, just in general. But that's why I like the whole ADP thing, where I'm going to get him later than all these guys anyway. Yeah,
and I think that a lot of the concerns that that's a guy that I could really see fall, like a serious fall in the draft. I mean, even though he's coming in as a top 18 guy, like, I could see him falling. I could see him really falling. But yeah, that was number 11, right? So my number 11, I have Joe Mixon.
Okay.
I got Joe Mixon. 1,137 yards last year rushing, 4.1 yards a carry. 278 attempts. I mean, with that offense that he was in last year with Andy Dalton, that trash at the Realm, I just don't think that. I mean, you got a guy in there, Burrow, now that's head and shoulders, in my opinion, better than Andy Dalton. Healthy AJ Green, healthy Tyler Boyd. They drafted who is that receiver that they drafted? T. Higgins. They drafted T. Higgins. I really think this could be a big year for him. He's a guy that can catch the ball. He's a guy that can get it done in the passing game, but also the rushing game. And I really think he's going to be the guy there. You got Gio Bernard or whatever there. I just don't think that these guys are going to be enough to overtake.
No, he's going to be the guy. I think. So I have him lower than you. We're talking 11 right now. I have him at 15.
Okay.
The only reason I got him at 15 is just based on my reasoning for most of these guys that I have probably lower than you and probably lower than most people out there. It's just because I feel like their ceiling is top 10, but I think they're going to finish in the top 10 to top 15. Like, what you're going to get from Mixon. Because in the past, he was, let me look at this.
Mixon's a guy.
19 in PPR standings last year. Obviously, we're not going to completely hold that against him because could that have been better with a better offense?
A lot of the pain that you say, like 19th ranked in PPR, that came in the beginning of the year. That's a lot of the things that happened from the first 8 weeks was really to his demise. I think
he got hot.
From week 8 on, he was the 6th ranked running back in football for PPR leagues from week 8 on. And I think that, as I said, that's with just a couple guys getting healthy and coming back. We're not talking about, no Andy Dalton now. We're not talking about guys that are injured.
Ryan Lindley or Finley, whatever the hell.
We got Joe Burrow there. We got a lot of weapons on the outside that are going to make them not stack the box. I just think this is going to be a big year for him. I think he has, top 7, top 8 upside.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think his floor absolute
15,
floor would be
dude,
a
like,
top 15 back. Yeah, I mean, like where you have him ranked. That's what I mean. Like we're right in these areas of these guys. I mean,
I'm just the guys.
He's 23. He's still young.
So when I'm looking at, because we already talked about Eckler, we talked about Jacobs, we talked about Mixon and Chubb. That's my 13 to 16 range.
Okay.
And I think most people have those guys probably shifted up like 3 or 4 spots in that 8, 9, 10, 11 range. Just, we can see the comparisons as we're talking about this. The reason I just have them lower than some of these guys that I'm talking about is I think they have maybe a worse floor. They definitely have a worse floor, but I still think a top 20 floor. I think these guys that I'm talking about, Gurley, Connor, Fournette, and Le'Veon Bell, like I'll just get in my 12 then. I have Le'Veon Bell as my 12. I think those guys have legitimate top 6 upside, top 20 floor, but that's the only reason I have them above the 13 to 16 with the Eckler, Jacobs, Mixon, Chubb. I just feel like I know what I'm going to get from them, and the timeshare with Chubb's the thing that concerns me. I think with Mixon, even though I think he's going to have over 1,000 yards, he's going to maybe get 20 or 30 receptions.
Right.
Just have a Joe Mixon year. The thing that caps him is playing the AFC North, and I think even though we were going to say Burrow is better than Finley and Dalton, I guess there's still some uncertainty there. I mean, I want to say that because I believe that. I think
he's a rookie QB.
Yeah, he's still a rookie QB.
How much can you trust a rookie?
So I think he's capped a little bit, and then Jacobs with the whole receptions thing is capped, and Eckler with the Chargers offense is capped.
Yeah.
I don't see your argument with Fournette with the trade, I think, is the one thing that can cap him. But if that doesn't happen, I think he's got that top 6, 7, maybe even 5 upside. 100%. That's the thing. If that was taken away, that is something to consider, though. It depends on how risk averse you are. I think I'm going to take that chance just because, especially where he's going to be drafted. Now, with Gurley, Connor, Fournette, and Bell, dude, I don't see as much cap. Connor with just the health, Gurley maybe the health too, and then Bell. But all those guys, they are the main guy. You know what I mean? I think if they can stay healthy, they have the talent, the production's all going to be there. So with Le'Veon Bell at 12, 66 receptions last year, like a bad year for him. Obviously a bad year. Still top 18 in PPR last year. Yeah. Still top 18 in points per game basis.
That's literally where I have him ranked.
At 12?
18.
Oh, 18?
I have him ranked 18. And like you're saying,
he's going to be the guy.
They had a bad year.
I have no one else to worry about, though, with the Jets.
A lot of the reason due to his bad year, not only his bad year, but, to Sam Darnold's demise, was their offensive line. They acknowledged the fact that they had a crap offensive line and brought in guys like Greg Van Roten, Connor McGovern, George Fant, and their first-round pick, I don't even know how to say his name, but Becton.
They spent a first-round pick on that.
They have definitely made serious improvements to their line, and I think that could seriously benefit both of them.
Yeah, that's why I like Bell at 12. I mean, people are down. I think a lot of people are down on him. But
and it's weird to say that. It's so weird to say that Le'Veon Bell, people are doubting him.
I like that value from my picks, 9 to 12, that these guys have talent. There's that knock of potential health, or they had a down year last year. But I don't have really much to worry about outside of that in terms of on a week-to-week basis. If they're healthy and they're playing in those systems, they're going to be putting up numbers and they're going to be the guy there. I don't have to worry about, I guess the Jets with a bad offense, but Le'Veon's got that talent, I think, that can overcome. Like I said, 66 receptions last year for him.
Got some new weapons on
like you said, with the offensive line. So I like Bell at 12 with a bounce-back year there with that top 5 upside. Yeah. If he gets the touches, it's possible.
Look out, for sure. But 12, I have Aaron Jones. A lot more people might have been a little bit more higher on him, but I just think that, he was very touchdown dependent as far as fantasy went last year. He's a top 3 back in all formats. Just the overall touchdowns carried him. He's 15th in rushing attempts last year, 11th in targets amongst running backs. I just think with the drop off in 2020, I think we're going to see from him. I think he's not going to be that mid-tier low, like RB3 flat, but I think he's going to be a mid-tier RB2 or a high-end RB2. I think that just with the fact that they drafted A.J. Dillon, you're going to see a lot. A.J. Dillon's a bigger guy. He's a guy that loves to get that big work in the red zone. And I think that's where, Aaron Jones made his living last year was the red zone. Getting those carries. Aaron Rodgers is throwing bombs, getting people on the, 5-yard line. He's just falling across the goal line, some of them. And, I think we're going to see some serious regression in there, but not too much regression to the point of where I wouldn't take him. I just wouldn't take him early in the second, and I wouldn't take him in the first.
I don't know if either of us are going to take him at all, just based off where we have him ranked, because I have him at 17.
Yeah.
And it's for the reasons you said.
And I'm the biggest Aaron Jones fan. Like, I got his jersey. As I said before on our last podcast, I love the Packers. I just don't like him in fantasy this year. I really don't.
Well, yeah, all those touchdowns, you're thinking that's going to go down a little bit, and he's very boomer bust. You could see it in his game logs last year where he can completely win you a week, but then the other one he's putting up a dud. So that's something that concerns me. And then the other thing is obviously bringing in that running back. Is that going to take away from his goal line touches? It's just one of those scenarios I don't know if I want to be involved in.
No.
It's just that simple. I mean, if he falls to me and he's still the 17th running back, there's 16 running backs taken ahead of him, and I'm sitting there and I don't know, maybe the 4th or 5th round he's there, I'll take him, obviously. 100%. But maybe even in the 3rd round. I don't know about that. But dude, it's one of those scenarios. It's something I don't want to be dealing with. The boomer bust factor, plus them bringing in Dillon. So, dude, I got him at 17, dude. I mean, I don't see the top 10 upside. Obviously, he was like the number 3 back last year, or number 2 back, whatever it was.
But that is very touchdown dependent.
It was touchdown dependent, dude, and it's one of those things. I don't know if I see it again. I could see top 10 upside, but at the same time, I see a floor outside of the top 20, which is why it's one of those scenarios I don't really want to be dealing with. Whereas, so I have my 17, like I mentioned in my rankings, my 13, 14, 15, and 16. I think they all have that top 10 potential upside just at that top 10. Mm-hmm. They don't have the top 5 upside, but at the same time, their floor is, top 15 at the worst. Yeah. So I know what I'm getting out of those backs. I don't want to be dealing with that boomer bust with Jones.
No chance.
It's as simple as that. He was already boomer bust with him getting the workload like he was. So goes back to everything I was saying about potential timeshares and, looking over your back at news and having to worry about what's going on there with coaching and what they're thinking. Just not something I want to be a part of. So I got him at 17. So do we have any overlap here with some of your players coming up?
13, I know you already got Miles Sanders. I had him at 13. Yep. Who do you have at 13?
I had Eckler.
Okay, so we got over those two guys. Who you got at 14?
Jacobs at 14. We talked about.
At 14, I got Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay.
I think that he's a perfect fit for Andy Reid's system. I mean, you look at what his build is, what his stature is. He's a similar guy. I like to compare him to Kareem Hunt. He runs a similar way. He's an elusive guy, but not only is he elusive, he'll just run you over. He'll fit perfect in that system. He had a monster year at LSU. Led them to one of the most probably pro offenses we've seen in college football in a long time. He led them with 16 rushing touchdowns. 8.2 yards per reception. So he's a guy that knows how to catch the ball, has good hands. And he showed an ability to impact the offense, just not one-dimensionally, but in a multitude of different ways. If he can pick up 70% of the work in that backfield, you're looking at 275 touches that would put him, close to, 13 to 1,500 all-purpose yards, and that's a pretty good fantasy year. But the thing that concerns me with him is just the Damian Williams factor, because Damian Williams takes a lot of work up in the passing game. He won the Super Bowl with them. He was debatably going to be the Super Bowl MVP. But he...
What would you, real quick side note, what would you have said there for MVP? I dude, he was so close.
My homeboy. Who got you there?
I know, I agree, 100%.
Love my homeboy.
So you're concerned about Williams there a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. A little bit. But I think that, what's done in the dark will come to light, and I think that everyone knows that he's a guy that everyone knows deep down that Edwards-Helaire is a difference maker. Edwards-Helaire is a difference maker. So they might try and early on in the year give Damian Williams, out of respect for him and the team, his chance to see what he can do. But if he struggles at all, I think he's going to lose his job within the first 3 or 4 weeks, if that's the case. So, I mean, if you can, where you're drafting this guy, as we said, he's the 14th ranked. If you can get him in like the 4th or 5th round, I'm 100% snagging him just based on the upside that I'm looking at. The Chiefs love to rely on their running back late in the year, and the late in the year is perfect time because that's fantasy playoffs. And I think this is a dude that can win you your league right here.
That's a perfect way to put it. I have him at 18. Would you say you had him at 14 or 15?
14, yeah.
So I'm actually not disagreeing with your ranking at all. I actually would really like to have him higher on my list.
Yeah.
My only thing is just that beginning of the season. It's when are we going to see him become the featured back? Because obviously rookies, they're not as acclimated to these systems and these teams, so it might take him a little bit to get going. Now, he's definitely one of those dudes I want on my roster at the end of the year. It's as simple as that. And my question is then, going back to what I said earlier, is when's that going to happen? And then as a fantasy owner, how risk adverse are you? Are you willing to take Helaire and, like you said, the 4th or 5th round, knowing you're probably going to stash him for 5 or 6 weeks maybe and not start him at all? Are you able to build that good of a team outside of him where maybe you are picking up free agency, you're really good on the waiver wire? It all depends on your skill and how good you think you can.
I'm riding or dying with him.
Yeah, if you think you can maneuver around it, I think it's an awesome value play then. I mean, he could finish the end of the season as a top 10 or 5 back. We talk about upside and all that stuff. My question is just how much is it going to hurt you at the beginning of the year? Are you willing to take that risk? In some scenarios, I would definitely, because I've done it before, dude. Like this is probably one of my dumber picks. I took Manziel one time. This was our 2 quarterback league actually. I took him in the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah.
In our league, it was such a dumb pick. But what I was thinking at the time was, all right, Manziel's going to sit out the first however many weeks, but they're going to bring Manziel in, and there's going to be hype around that. If Manziel starts doing good, he's got the legs. I think he could end up being, a top 10 quarterback. And in a 2 quarterback league, that's valuable. So that's what I was thinking.
There was so much hype.
And I think Hilaire's value is just going to get better and better because you could think of fantasy in terms of stocks too, right? In terms of like buying low and selling high based off a player's production. Could this guy, a guy starts off hot. The whole question is always, all right, should I try to trade him for someone that's been more proven in the past and has had a slow start, but he's going to end up bouncing back and having a better second half of the year? Or is this guy that has had a hard start keeping it up? You know what I mean? That's always the question with fantasy.
Yeah, I would love to be able to get I don't know. I mean, depending on, it all depends on your draft slot. Mm-hmm. I think that, if I can get a elite receiver in the first round, I'm not going to hate on the guys that I can pick because I might go, running back. And
a bunch of flyers on running back.
Dude, it's like, if you can get guys that are number one, bona fide number ones, and then get a Clyde Edwards-Helaire to throw in your flex, what bad's it going to do you? I mean, I don't see the negative there. As we said before, I mean, I'm projecting him to have near 1,500 all-purpose yards this year. I mean, he could damn well exceed that. I mean, I'm not trying to hype him up too much, but it's impressive what he did in college, and it's a perfect fit.
First running back taken in the draft.
Yeah,
there was a reason they took him. There was
100%.
Other guys that I think a lot of analysts had above Edwards-Helaire. So the Chiefs saw some type of fit in their system and really wanted him.
Yeah.
So I think it completely makes sense in terms of talent and opportunity meshing. The question is, like I said, with my ranking, why I have him a little bit lower is just when. And, in terms of long-term, I'm not going to knock someone for taking him, maybe reaching for him just because they're thinking the value with Helaire is going to increase as the season's going on and is going to help my team win a championship. So
for sure.
That's definitely a good point.
For sure. Who you got at 15?
I got Mixon. We talked about Mixon.
Okay. Yeah, I got Gurley. So
okay, we talked about Gurley. Yep. 16, I have Chubb. We talked about Chubb.
I got Chris Carson.
Okay, we haven't talked about him. I don't have him on my list.
Dude.
I don't, man. I don't. Wow. I'm worried maybe a little bit about
you got Fournette on there, but not Carson?
Well, I know Fournette's healthy, man. And Carson's going to be healthy too, but they brought in Hyde, They got a little dicey running back situation up there. It's low key. It's not like a Chubb, Kareem Hunt one, or maybe like a Dolphin scenario or a Colts scenario. But dude, you never know. I mean, Hyde had 1,000 yards last year.
Chris Carson dominated.
That's my only concern. That's literally my only concern with him is the potential hip injury last year. I don't know if that's going to linger at all.
He played on 65% of their snaps, fifth in the league or fifth in the NFL in rushing attempts. He was slightly more efficient last year, I believe, in the passing game. I think 2018 he had 20, and last year he had, I believe, 37. So he's a dude that, can get it done with his hands. I mean, he's not McCaffery. He's not a guy that's a real good pass catcher, but he can get it done.
No, he can.
They ran the ball the fifth most in the NFL. I believe it was like 48.2% of the time, so almost 50% of the time they're running the ball. I think that, regardless of the passing weapons that they have there, they got Tyler Lockett, they got DK Metcalf, they might bring back a guy like Josh Gordon or sign AB. I think with the passing weapons, it really doesn't matter because, as I said in the previous podcast, Pete Carroll is a run guy until he can't run no more, and he has to rely on Russell. And, that's one of the things with Russell, what makes him so special is even though they're trying to pound the rock, he's a dude that can always bring him back in the game. The game's never over with Russell Wilson.
Never.
And I think that, having that security with Russell Wilson is really going to open the door for them to pound the rock with a guy like Chris Carson, as long as we said, obviously he can stay healthy. But I think he's a strong RB2 option in any format, whether it's standard or PPR. I think that, he's a guy that's really forgotten about sometimes. He's a veteran guy.
Oh, definitely. I wanted to put him in, dude. I really did, but I don't know. I don't like the Hyde pickup. And, I guess just a little bit with that injury. That's really it, because I wanted to put him there. So I'd probably have him just outside of my top 20, like that honorable mention slot. But, I have nothing against Chris Carson.
Honorable mention right there.
What?
Yeah,
sure. I'll put him
mention.
in there. Well,
That's
I have
perfect.
nothing against him because, like you said, he's always been productive when he's on the field. He doesn't do anything like amazing. He doesn't do anything like some of these top 10 guys where you're going crazy over him. But at the same time, like if you got him at your running back 2 or a flex spot, that could be a nice play for you. So what was that? Was 16 for you?
Yeah, 17.
17. I said Aaron Jones. Okay, we already talked about him.
I got David Johnson.
Oh wow! I thought I was gonna have him.
Yeah.
On my board, and you weren't gonna have him. I didn't think anyone was gonna be as high as.
Really?
Well, you're actually higher on him than me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that with the
I have him 19.
The workload that's being left there, it's it's a high percentage. The only guy there that I could really see is like Duke Johnson, but Duke Johnson.
We know what Duke Johnson is.
Not the guy. I mean, no. Dude, he's not it.
He's not.
We saw
whether you want to say he's like a scat back or just that extra piece in the running game. I mean, honestly, it's an eye test. It's just not there.
If we're talking about like scheme fits and how Arizona all those years had, I just think that the way that David Johnson was in Arizona, he just didn't fit the scheme there. And to think about what I'm saying, he was a number 1 overall pick sometimes. Like my dad was one of the dudes.
Dude, he was a top 5 pick last year.
Dude, my dad was one of the guys that was like, "Oh, David Johnson, I'm bigger than 1. You're crazy." Or something like that. Like I just don't like him. Like I've never liked David Johnson until honestly right now. Like I really like David Johnson.
Because the value,
dude. The value. Not only the value, but it's just like how. Just that, he isn't that old. Like people are thinking like, oh, he's some old guy. Like he's he's not.
I'm
28?
Not saying.
Dude, he's 28. This is like the prime of his career. This is when guys are, getting doing these big things. And I think that, Bill O'Brien has already spoken out and said he's high on him. They said that they think he's a 3-down back. Yeah, there's a reason they traded for him. There's a reason you give up a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I would hope you're getting something back.
Yeah, and only getting a second-round pick back.
It was just embarrassing.
With David Johnson, though. Because they must be high on David Johnson then to make that make sense.
I mean,
it goes to your point.
You look at a guy like Arian Foster that was a beast in Houston all those years. Look at the style that David Johnson runs with. It's very, very similar.
Arian Foster could catch out the backfield. David Johnson could
catch out the backfield. He's a powerful dude, downhill runner. There's a lot of similarities there. And I just think he's going to bounce back, and I think he's going to outperform because, I'm very high on him. I think he's going to outperform all the rankings. That I think he's a guy that could be a top 15, maybe a top 10 guy, depending on how the season goes out.
Yep.
I think he's heavily disrespected.
Even in 18, which was a down year, this was obviously before they got Kyler Murray, and this was that was a really shitty Arizona team. That was
the Drew Stanton.
No, I don't know about that. Who was their quarterback in 18? This was their 2-14 year. I don't even know who their quarterback. It was bad, whoever it was. But no, he still had 940 yards, 7 touchdowns rushing, 50 receptions, 446 yards, 3 touchdowns in a shitty Arizona system. Obviously, the yards per carry wasn't there, 3.6, but could he be getting 250 rushing attempts and that 50 receptions in Houston?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about, who's the other guy? The only question mark with him is maybe just like you said, the wear and tear. Yeah. Someone would argue, but at the same time, he's 28 right now. He's going to be 29 when the season starts, but I still think that's young, dude. I mean, he had the 1 year where he was completely off, basically. And, Peterson's had a year or two like that, and he's still kicking it. He's still having 1,000-yard years, and he's much older than David Johnson. Yeah. So the production the production will be there, especially if he gets the touches. I mean, the touches will be there, so touches that's going to equal the production. Yeah. I'm with you. So I have him at 19, but you have him a little bit higher than me, and I'm not opposed to that.
Duke Johnson is, he's as good as a guy that's similar. I mean, I'm not comparing him because this would make him sound good, but in the years that Melvin Gordon was steamrolling, he's like that Eckler guy. That before Eckler broke out, the guy that's just getting the check downs, coming in when David Johnson can't catch his breath on the sideline. He's a guy that is just the placeholder for him until he can come back in the game. So I think that the snaps are there for David Johnson. I think he's really going to have a good year this year.
All right, so that's 17. I have a Laird 18. We talked about him.
Okay, I have Bell at 18.
Bell at 18. We talked about Bell. 19. I have David Johnson. We just talked about him.
I got Melvin Gordon. And I was talking him up earlier.
You are.
I think that there's a clear path to the touches there, regardless of what people think of how crowded that backfield is. I think that the talent that he provides is 100 times more than Royce Freeman.
Easily.
I think that the running effectiveness is going to be 50 times more than Phillip Lindsay can give. I think that, with the pass catching abilities, Phillip Lindsay is, maybe a guy that will be like a similar to like Eckler last year with Gordon. And, but I just think that, he's a true 3-down back. His presence in the offense is just scary. He's a downhill runner. Denver runs a lot of inside zone schemes, which he really thrives with. And I think that he can flirt with, RB1 production. I think that if he can get something in the range of 60 to 70% of the snaps, I think we could see something really special from him this year in Denver with that offense, with the additions of the wide receivers that they drafted and Drew Lock and Phillip Lindsay. Maybe they run some 2 backfield sets, 2 running back sets, and really confuse people. It's just something to look out for. I mean, when you're getting a guy like Melvin Gordon, in the 19th, I mean, you can't complain about that. I mean, you're talking about a guy, you may be getting him in the 6th round, the 5th round. I mean, that's all day.
Top 10 upside.
Give me him.
Yeah.
Give me the Melvin Gordon.
The concern, just the concerns is the running back by committee thing between him and Phillip Lindsay, because Lindsay has been a good running back and Melvin Gordon's obviously been a good running back too. Now the thing with Gordon, I have this weird thing with Gordon where I look at the yards per carry, dude. It hasn't been there throughout his career at all. He's a good fantasy running back though. And here's the other thing I will say: there might be a reason that the Broncos brought him in. You don't bring him in if you think Lindsay's your guy. I mean, and what are they paying? I mean, they signed him to a contract,
$16 million.
Yeah, so you paid him
2 years.
You bring him in for a reason. It kind of makes sense to me. I'm gonna stay away just from the standpoint it's him and Lindsay.
From 2016 to his last full year, which was 2018, he led the NFL in broken tackles.
Well, I'm not gonna completely say I'm gonna stay away. It depends on when you could draft him, but I don't have him in my top 20. I could say honorable mention. I think the thing with me is
give me all the Melvin Gordon.
The thing with me is just simply the Melvin Gordon versus Phillip Lindsay thing. Even though I just made all those counterpoints, but I don't want to be worrying about that at all. I just want to have my guy where I know this is going to be the starting running back. He's going to get all the touches, and there's not going to be a controversy there. I think Gordon,
which is respectable.
I think Gordon's going to have the job. Like I said, there's a part of me where it's like, man, I think Gordon is a little overrated as a running back, but as a fantasy running back, when he gets the touches, and he's a good pass catcher too, he puts up points. So I could see it being there, man. I'll put him in my honorable mention too, just outside of my top 20 for sure. Okay. All right, so that was your 19, 20.
I had James Conner.
You have James Conner 20. Yeah. Okay, we talked about him. I have Mark Ingram.
Oh, wow.
What do you have? Do you have him not even around?
No.
Why? Are you worried about Dobbins taking over? Really?
100%.
So this is actually an opposite of Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick with Mark Ingram. I think at the beginning of the year is going to be where he thrives, whereas I don't think you're going to want to have Mark Ingram towards the end of the year. So if you have him, I think he can be a top 10 back for sure. I mean, dude, he had an awesome year last year. He had a really good year. In terms of PPR, too, you wouldn't think that coming from...
He was the 10th ranked running back in PPR points per game.
Yep. You wouldn't think that coming from him where he's just always going to be more or less the running guy, because that's what he was with the Saints. They always had an extra pass-catching guy.
That power guy, yeah.
Yep. But no, he was awesome last year, and I think the opportunity is going to be there. And the question is just, is that going to fall off towards the end of the year where Mark Ingram becomes decreasing value for your team? I don't know, dude. Is Dobbins going to take over? Because the argument could be made with the whole rookie thing of, man, is he going to...
It's another one to look out for.
It is someone to look out for. The difference between him and Edwards-Helaire, though, is there's no one in Edwards-Hilaire's way, whereas Mark Ingram's a pro. Like, he made a Pro Bowl last year. I just don't know if they're going to completely go away from him. Now, will his value maybe be a little bit less as the year goes on? Yeah, and that might not be something you want to be dealing with. So, honestly, you might have me convinced on Gordon over him, to be honest with you. I'm going to stick with Ingram, though, just because of his top 10 year last year, and obviously the Ravens with Lamar Jackson and the opportunities that's going to be there in the running game. Yeah, dude. I mean, he was a top 10, like I said, top 10 guy last year, and in the foreseeable future, there's no one in his way. Now, the question is, in week 8, Mark Ingram's a little banged up. The offense is maybe sputtering a little bit. They need some more creativity. You throw J.K. Dobbins in there.
Could be the spark.
The thing is, though, is J.K. Dobbins going to completely take all of Mark Ingram's touches, or is it going to be all of Gus Edwards? That's the thing, because that's how competent and elite that running system was with the Ravens, where Gus Edwards had over 700 yards. Lamar Jackson had over 1,000 yards rushing. Mark Ingram over 1,000 yards. So where are those touches going to go? And are we just automatically going to say J.K. Dobbins over Gus Edwards right now, just coming in as a rookie? And like we're saying, these training camps are going to be weird. The OTAs, no preseason games. So I don't even know if we could say that for certain. My thing is, in week 8, what's going to be happening? So it could be one of those things where you have Mark Ingram for first half of your season. You might be looking to trade him maybe in week 6, 7 if he's doing really good, knowing that, hey, man, there could be some certainty later with the playoffs and just later in the regular season. So I still got him 20 just based off of, like I said, the Ravens running game. And he was a Pro Bowl last year, and the production kind of speaks for itself. So that's all. Yeah. That's all. I think it's one of those things to monitor, though. And we're getting to that point in this 20 range where there is going to be some baggage or things you're going to be concerned about with any running back you pick. It's just whether or not you want to be dealing with that or not. So, that's it for me, man. We got our top 20 here. Yeah. Do we want to talk sleepers real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Just list them off.
What are your top 3?
Top 3. Let me see. Do I have them written down here? Number 1's for sure Cam Akers.
Okay.
For sure Cam Akers with the LA Rams. Because there are other guys, Darrell Henderson. I don't really think the Rams believe in him at all. And
if they did, they wouldn't have drafted.
No, exactly. And Cam Akers, a lot of people are saying, it depends on what rankings you were looking at, but, a top 3 back in this draft. Some maybe would have him in the top 5, top 6, but a lot of people are saying this dude is a big-time sleeper in this draft if you have him that late. Dude, I think he has like a clear opportunity to be the feature back. I don't think Darrell Henderson's really like an every down, 3-down back at all. So, I mean, Sean McVay, that offense, that system, I think it could just work all around. Just the talent's there, the opportunity, and the team and the offense. So, yeah, he's definitely number one for me.
Okay, so for my number one sleeper, I got DeAndre Swift. I like Kerryon Johnson, but, I just don't trust Kerryon. I had him on my team last year. Very underwhelming year. Very underwhelming player. I think that DeAndre Swift gives them that explosiveness that they need, that pass-catching ability. We saw what he did last year in college. He was a very, very good pass-catching running back, a very, very powerful running back. So I think that, we know sort of what we're going to get with, DeAndre Swift, and I'm sort of excited to see a healthy Matt Stafford along with them, with the receivers they have, Kenny Golladay. I just think that this could be a decent year for him. I think it's a guy to really watch out for. If you can get him, which I'm sure he's going to be drafted, but if some point in your year you see him in the free agency or something like that, dude, pick him up. I mean, that is a steal.
No, I like DeAndre Swift too. I'll have him in my man
because he might start the year too. Because Kerryon they're probably going to give Kerryon that job, but they're going to let Kerryon lose it. I would think, or I would hope.
I got a few names. I mean, I think Akers is like my number one. I think the opportunity's there, and I think he's going to take that job for sure. You have Jonathan Taylor with Marlon Mack. That's like a sticky situation, but like Jonathan Taylor could have that, that sleeper upside as well. I think at worst they're splitting carries. Maybe it's going to be 60-40 Mack to start off, but if Taylor excels, he could be the guy down the stretch too. I like taking the flyer. I think you're going to have to pick both on one of the Bucs backs.
Yeah.
You'll probably just take Jones and take Keyshawn Vaughn. I like doing that type of stuff. I don't know if you really like doing that strategy where, all right, I have the Bucs running back. I don't know who it's going to be. Because you're not going to be starting either one right off the bat. But, dude, in Brady's system and that offense, if he
look at what James White did there.
If he trusts one of those guys, dude, and you could see they're getting the consistent touches, that could be a top 10 play right there. 100%. So depending on when you can get them, I could see people maybe taking Jones a little bit too early. But if you can get them really late where you're comfortable and saying, all right, I'm going back to back right here. I'm taking both Bucs running backs, and I'm going to see what happens. I like that play. Dude, you have Darius Geis, obviously. Is it Derek Geis or Darius Geis? Darius Geis.
Yeah.
Obviously him. Devin Singletary. Like, all these dudes you could take late. You're not starting them right off the bat, but if they can stay healthy, if they can get the touches, they could be top 10 backs for sure. You mentioned Swift. I like that play too. I don't think you can go wrong with really any of these guys at all.
It's been a while since the Lions had a really good running back that they can rely on. Yeah, I mean,
Reggie Bush
that might be the last one. But yeah, for my three sleepers, I had DeAndre Swift. I had Ronald Jones at 2. I had Darius Geis at 3. But a sleeper that really caught my eye today and it made me think about things.
Outside the box.
An outside the box one was Matt Breida. Matt Breida was debatably the best running back for San Francisco last year, other than Raheem Mostert. I mean, this is a guy that was the go-to guy for Jimmy Garoppolo, and now he's going to an offense that, they have weapons on the outside. They have Preston Williams. They have Devontae Parker. They have Mike Gesicki. I mean, dude, you're going to go into an offense with a guy like Fitzpatrick, because I don't think Tua is going to see the field this year, but you're going into an offense for a guy with, Fitzpatrick, who I think that he's going to be so excited to have a Matt Breida in. I mean, to see where people are ranking him, I mean, if I look at this list, he's being ranked at 40, 54, 42, 44, 45. I mean,
last pick of the draft.
It's unreal. It's unreal. And I mean, dude, give me all the Matt Breida. Give me all the Melvin Gordon. Give me all the Matt Breida.
Those two are going to be on a lot of your teams.
100%. 100%.
Hey, dude, I like that Matt Breida call. If he's 40 or 50, what is there? There is a lane. There is a narrative. There is a universe where he takes over the starting job 100%. In Miami for sure. 100%. You could definitely see it happening.
Catches balls better. He's just as good as a runner, in my opinion, as Jordan Howard, if not better.
Yeah, I don't know what the thing is with Jordan. Like, he had that one good year with the Bears.
Terrible.
Kinda, but
dude, he couldn't do nothing. And you know what? Another guy, we're staying along the lines, but Tevin Coleman. What about Tevin Coleman?
No, definitely. With Mostert wanting out now, he might be that was the thing with the 49ers that was really uncertain about them. There was a rotating thing with their running backs, but now Mostert wants out. Could it be just Coleman there?
And if Coleman's just there, I mean,
holy crap.
Look at where Raheem Mostert's.
I'd put him in the top 20. I would put if he's the only guy with the 49ers.
Look at where Raheem Mostert's at. He's 19th on Matthew Berry, 28th, 25th, 34. Dude, I mean, the value you can get from him, as we said, like maybe a top 15 guy for the last pick in the draft to throw in, to have as a security blanket in case one of my guys gets hurt. I'm taking that.
Now, if you're comparing him to Mostert, you're probably taking Mostert in a vacuum.
Oh, yeah. If I had the choice of they're both healthy, I'm picking Mostert.
Whoever is going to be the guy getting the most touches for the 49ers, and if it's really Tevin Coleman and there's no one else competing for that, damn, dude. Like I said, I would easily put him in the top 20 right now if I knew that. If I knew that right off the bat. Maybe even in the top 15. Like that, that's a special opportunity right there.
It is. It really is.
We got anything else, man? We got everything covered?
Yeah, I think we got most of everything covered.
Yeah, dude.
Any dudes you think are gonna bust this year?
Oh,
big busts.
Damn, dude. No, I don't. I don't have a. We talked about Henry, but I think our rankings reflect that a little bit. I think he's gonna just go down. I don't think he's gonna be a bust though. Could he have 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns? Is that a bust? Depending on where you draft him, maybe, and what your expectations are. I just don't expect that from Henry. Dude, a bust. Honestly, a bust would probably be one of my guys that I'm putting in this 9 to 12 spot. You know what I mean? Like I could see them.
Yeah.
Just making me look bad here. Gurley, Connor, Fournette, or Lev Bell.
It's painful.
Even though I'm on them.
As painful as this is to say, I just think Aaron Jones is going to be the bust this year. And I love Aaron Jones. I say it again. But
I could see Eckler. Because we were talking about this. I could see with the Chargers offense, depending on where he's drafted.
Yeah.
And I think some people are going to draft him high, so I could see him being a bust. And the only reason I don't want to make it seem like, I'm bailing on my guys from that Gurley, Connor, Fournette, and Bell range. I could just, you never know with injuries or something like that. Where, because man,
I would love to see Eckler go early that I can pick Kenyan Drake.
I like my top 10. Like I really like my top 10. I don't think any of them are gonna bust. I think I have my rankings reflect that. So dude, I think I like my rankings for the most part. Yeah, I like how I have my 9 through 12. As my top 5 upside guys, but you never know with the injuries and that type of stuff. And then my 13 through 16 are like, all right, these guys are safe. Top 10 to 15, you know what you're going to get. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I think that's it, dude.
Yeah, it was fun.
Enjoyed this.
It was fun. What's the next one we're going to do? We did quarterbacks and running backs.
What do you want? It seems receivers, but you want to flip it to tight ends?
Let's go tight ends.
Okay.
Let's go tight ends. Switch it up. Leave them waiting for a wide receiver.
I'm good with that, dude.
All right,
dude. Well, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. I guess if you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know what running backs you're eyeing up, what sleepers you have, whatever. And until next time, peace.
Peace.